Have you ever felt outplayed in your own life, watching someone command the room with nothing but a glance while you struggle to get a word in? Ever walked away from a conversation replaying it over and over, realizing they twisted your words with a smile you couldn't challenge? That's not luck. It's not magic. It's strategy. Most people talk too much. They react too fast. They hand over power without even knowing it. But you don't have to be like them. There's another way, a quieter, sharper kind of power. One built on discipline, calm, and unbreakable self-control. Imagine seeing someone's real intentions before they even speak. Shifting the mood of a room without raising your voice. Owning your space so fully no one can shake you. This isn't manipulation. This is mastery, and it's ancient, rooted in the timeless rules of Stoic philosophy. Today, I'm giving you 6 rules that will change how you see power and how you carry it. If you're ready to stop being at the mercy of the world and start moving through it with absolute purpose, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, and let me know in the comments which rule hits hardest for you. Let's get into it. 1. Master emotional stillness. You've seen it before. Someone in a meeting gets a critical question they didn't expect. Their eyes dart, they talk faster, their face flushes. They scramble to defend themselves, overshare details, and try to prove they're in control. But everyone watching knows they just lost it. That moment of panic told the room they weren't ready. That's not leadership. That's surrender. We like to think our emotions are honest reflections of truth, but they're often just reflexes. We react to discomfort, to perceived threats, to anything that challenges our ego. And when we react without discipline, we become predictable. A person who is predictable can be manipulated. If your boss knows you'll fold under pressure, he'll press harder. If your competitor sees you lose your cool when questioned, they'll probe your insecurities next time. Emotional reactions are tells at the poker table of life. Stoic philosophy is the antidote. It doesn't demand that you be cold or unfeeling. It demands that you recognize emotions as impressions, not facts. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he controlled his mind, not outside events. That's not motivational fluff. It's a tactic. Because when you understand that anger, fear, and embarrassment are momentary surges, things you can observe rather than obey, you regain control of the frame. Consider this. You're presenting an idea to your team, and someone interrupts with a condescending laugh. Most people bristle. They might stammer or try to justify themselves, desperate to win the moment. But the Stoic doesn't. He hears the laugh, feels the surge of indignation, and lets it settle without acting on it. He continues speaking at his own pace, deliberate and unbothered. That unshaken composure unsettles critics and earns respect. The team sees who's truly in control. This isn't about being passive or weak. It's about refusing to be steered. People will test you. They'll mock, dismiss, ignore, or needle you to see how you respond. The moment they can make you flinch, they know they own a part of you. And once you hand over that power, you don't get it back easily. Emotional stillness is a weapon. It's how you hold the high ground while others burn themselves out trying to provoke you. In negotiation, the person who stays quiet longest often wins. In conflict, the one who remains calm sets the tone. When you refuse to rise to bait, you expose the other person's desperation. Most people never learn this. They treat every slight as worth their energy. They explain themselves to people who don't matter. They respond to insults from people they'll never see again. And in doing so, they exhaust themselves for no gain. The Stoic approach is ruthlessly efficient. Save your energy for what matters. Don't answer every challenge. Don't fight every battle. Choose your responses with care. This is the core of Stoic mastery, governing yourself so well that no one else can. It's not about avoiding feelings, but commanding them. It's the ability to pause, to ask, is this worthy of me, or is this just noise? That pause is power. It makes you harder to read, harder to provoke, and therefore harder to defeat. And the truth is, people respect what they can't shake. They may not like it, they may resent it, but they recognize it as strength. Because while everyone else is busy reacting, you're choosing. You decide what matters. You set the terms. So the next time you're challenged, someone dismisses your idea, questions your competence, or tries to undermine you in front of others, don't rush to prove them wrong. Don't let your pulse decide your response. Sit with it. Speak only when you choose. Make your words count. Show them that you can't be moved from your center. That's real power. It's not about dominating others with noise. It's about becoming unshakable yourself. And once you master that emotional stillness, you're ready to move to the next rule, because power isn't built on one trick. It's built step by step on principles that stand no matter who or what tries to topple them. Let's talk about the next one. 2. Let silence lead. In today's world, people can't stand even a second of quiet. You see it everywhere. At work, when someone gets a tough question and rushes to fill the air with empty words. At family dinners, where uncomfortable topics spark panicked chatter, even in casual conversation where people compete to be heard instead of listening. Most are terrified of silence because it forces them to face uncertainty. They think if they don't say something, they'll lose standing or be seen as weak. But that fear is exactly why silence is such a devastatingly effective strategy. I remember watching a manager at a high-stakes meeting get asked about missed targets. Instead of pausing, he launched into a frantic monologue, over-explaining, deflecting blame, throwing in half-promises to fix it. He thought he was saving face, but all he did was prove he had no control. The executives in the room didn't see leadership. They saw weakness. They didn't hear solutions. They heard desperation. That meeting ended his credibility. Silence, on the other hand, signals certainty. The person who can pause before speaking, who can sit in that tension without rushing to relieve it, shows he's not rattled. He's deliberate. He listens. And people sense that. They don't see someone grasping for approval. They see someone who knows their own value. Stoic philosophy understands this instinctively. The Stoics didn't prize silence because they were meek. They prized it because they knew words are tools. And if you use them carelessly, you dull their edge. Marcus Aurelius wrote about weighing every word, about choosing speech that aligns with principle rather than impulse. Because when you speak only what matters, people know to listen. Silence isn't passive, it's active. When you go quiet, you're not doing nothing. You're observing. You're reading the room. You're letting the other person reveal their intent, their insecurities, their angles. Because people hate uncertainty so much that when you don't react, they'll start talking more, giving away more than they ever meant to. Picture a job interview. The candidate is asked a tough question about a gap in their resume. One person stammers, rushes, apologizes, gets defensive. Another holds the silence for a moment, thinks, and then responds calmly with a short, direct answer. Who sounds more confident? Who would you hire? It's the one who didn't panic at the quiet. That's the Stoic move. It's not about having no answer. It's about showing you don't need to scramble. Most people undervalue this because they think communication is about filling space. But real influence comes from controlling the frame. Silence is your frame. It turns the spotlight on the other person. It forces them to question themselves. And when you do speak, your words carry weight precisely because they're rare. This discipline is hard because it's uncomfortable. You have to resist the urge to defend yourself, to be liked, to fix the conversation. But that discomfort is the training ground. The Stoic knows you can't control what others say or do, but you can control yourself. Silence is proof of that control. It says you don't need their validation. You don't fear their judgment. You are grounded in your own standard. And there's another truth people don't like to admit. In many situations, saying less gets you more. In negotiations, the quiet party forces the other side to fill the void with better offers. In conflict, the one who doesn't escalate creates room for the other person to expose their own weakness. Even socially, the person who listens more is seen as wiser. Because in our noisy world, quiet is rare. And what is rare is respected. So next time you feel the urge to jump in, pause. Hold the silence. Let others reveal themselves. Then choose your words like a craftsman selects his tools. Not many, but precise. Make them earn your response. Make them wait for your opinion. Because what is earned is valued. Think about this. When was the last time you regretted pausing before speaking? Compare that to how often you regretted blurting something out. I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and tell me how you've seen silence work or fail in your own life. Because when you master silence, you don't just avoid mistakes. You shape the room. You anchor the conversation. And once you can do that, you're ready to learn the next rule. 3. Be strategically misunderstood. There's a quiet power in letting others underestimate you. It doesn't shout, doesn't posture, doesn't demand to be seen. It simply sits back, listens, and lets the world reveal itself. In a society that rewards loud confidence and constant self-promotion, this approach seems counterintuitive. But that's exactly why it works. Most people are so busy proving themselves that they forget to protect themselves. They show their plans before they're ready. They telegraph their intentions with every word. They leave no mystery, no doubt, no room for error. And what is completely known is easily controlled. I remember watching a man named Alan during a corporate training session. He wasn't flashy. He didn't speak unless asked. When he did, his answers were brief, almost too simple. Others in the room smirked, thinking he was slow, inexperienced, harmless. They didn't see that while they performed for the facilitator, Alan was watching. He listened to every boast, every admission, every careless slip. He noted who exaggerated their success, who cut others off, who tried too hard to be liked. At the end of the session, when they broke into teams to solve a real problem, Alan didn't take charge. He waited. He let the loudest in the group wrestle for control, propose weak solutions, and expose their ignorance. When they finally turned to him out of frustration, he laid out a clear, quiet plan that addressed every flaw they'd ignored. They were stunned. He'd been invisible until that moment, but when it counted, he owned the room. That is the heart of being strategically misunderstood. It's not about lying, it's about restraint. Stoic philosophy teaches that you don't need to broadcast your every thought. You don't need to prove yourself in every interaction. You control what you reveal. You let others fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. And in that space between what they think they know and what is real, you gain leverage. The average person can't stand being misunderstood. They'll rush to clarify, to defend, to prove they're right. It's an emotional reflex born of ego and insecurity. The Stoic rejects that impulse. He knows being underestimated can be a shield. Let them think you're weaker. Let them think you're not paying attention. Let them think you're not a threat. Because when they relax, they slip. They overexpose themselves. They become predictable. Stoic discipline isn't about deceiving others with falsehoods. It's about knowing what is worth sharing and what is better held back. It's reading the room, understanding the players, and never giving away more than you need to. It's watching for the right moment to act rather than being baited into reacting. Imagine a project meeting where someone aggressively challenges your idea in front of the team. Most people would jump to defend themselves, argue every point, prove they're right. But the Stoic approach is different. You listen, you nod, you let them believe they've rattled you, that they've won. And while they celebrate that small victory, you gather information. You see what motivates them, where they're insecure, who sides with them. Then, later, away from the performance of the meeting, you quietly address concerns with decision-makers, fix the real issues, and move forward without fanfare. When the project succeeds, there's no need to gloat. The outcome speaks for itself. That's the power of strategic misunderstanding. It's not passive, it's not weakness, it's choosing your battles and controlling the field. It's refusing to let your emotions dictate your strategy. It's knowing that by being unreadable, you become untouchable. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Don't mirror aggression with aggression. Don't respond to ego with ego. Don't reveal your full hand just because someone demands it. Stay calm, stay quiet. Let them think they've won, because when the moment truly matters, your move will land harder than they ever expected. This isn't about being someone else. It's about knowing yourself so well that you can decide what parts to share and when. It's about being patient enough to let others reveal themselves first. And it's about understanding that in a world obsessed with being seen, sometimes the greatest power is found in what you choose to keep hidden. When you master the art of being strategically misunderstood, you don't need to dominate every room you enter. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You simply hold your ground, watch, and wait for the moment when one well-placed word or action changes everything. And once you understand that, you're ready for the next rule. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting "yes" below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. 4. Turn absence into strength. In a culture that celebrates constant visibility, people forget that what is always available loses its impact. Everyone is scrambling to stay in the spotlight, to respond immediately, to never miss an invitation or a chance to prove they belong. But the man who knows his worth does the opposite. He understands that scarcity amplifies value. He does not fear absence. He uses it. I once watched a senior partner at a law firm navigate this perfectly. Unlike his colleagues who attended every meeting, replied to every email within minutes, and loudly showcased their expertise, he chose his moments carefully. He'd skip minor discussions without apology, delegate what didn't merit his attention, and rarely spoke during early deliberations. At first, junior associates mistook this for indifference. But when real problems emerged, problems that couldn't be solved with noise or politicking, everyone turned to him. He would step in quietly, ask a few pointed questions, and lay out a clear solution no one else had seen. It wasn't that he lacked presence. It was that he guarded it, so when he did appear, it had weight. That is the essence of Stoic scarcity. It isn't about arrogance or playing hard to get. It's about understanding the basic truth of human perception. The more accessible you are, the more ordinary you become. The Stoics understood that restraint wasn't just about words or emotions, but about your very self. Epictetus taught that to be free, you must stop caring about being seen by everyone. That's not passivity. It's discipline. It's a refusal to let the world set your priorities. Most people don't realize how much they give away by always being available. They answer every message the moment it arrives, attend every event out of fear of missing out, and jump into every conversation to prove they have something to say. They think this shows commitment, but in reality it teaches others that their time is cheap, their focus scattered, their standards low. If you are always there, you are taken for granted. Absence, when chosen wisely, forces people to notice. It creates room for others to think about you, to wonder about your perspective, to question what you're planning. It turns silence into a message in itself. When you choose not to explain yourself constantly, people are left to fill in the gaps, often assuming there is more depth, more strategy, more strength than you ever claimed outright. Human nature abhors uncertainty, and in that vacuum of your absence, you gain power. Consider someone who rarely posts on social media. When they do, people pay attention. The scarcity of their voice gives it gravity. Or think of a leader who doesn't speak in every meeting, but whose words carry decisive authority when he finally chooses to weigh in. It isn't about mystery for its own sake. It's about clarity of purpose. You show up where it matters, and you stay silent where it doesn't. This approach also sets boundaries for how others treat you. If you're always available, people treat you as an afterthought. They cancel plans, waste your time, make demands they'd never dare with someone more guarded. But when you set limits, delaying responses, declining non-essential obligations, reserving your energy, people adapt. They come prepared. They value the time you give them precisely because it is not guaranteed. The Stoic doesn't withhold himself out of spite or to feel superior. He does it because he knows his time is finite. He understands that what he invests himself in must align with his principles, not the world's demands. He values his focus as a precious resource and refuses to squander it for appearances. You don't need to be everywhere to have influence. In fact, true influence often grows in your absence. Let others rush to be seen. Let them fight to be heard in every moment. You can afford to wait. You can afford to choose. And when you finally step forward, your presence will have the impact of something rare, something people lean toward instead of take for granted. Because in the end, scarcity isn't about creating mystery for its own sake. It's about preserving your strength, guarding your attention, and ensuring that when you give yourself to something, it matters. That is real discipline. That is real power. And once you've mastered the art of turning absence into strength, you're ready to move to the next principle of unshakable power. 5. Lead quietly through reflection. There's a strength that doesn't make noise or demand the floor. It works in the background, observing, understanding, and moving with purpose. In a world where people equate leadership with dominance and the loudest voice wins the room, this approach is almost invisible, but it's often the most effective. It's the Stoic art of mirroring, guiding others not by force but by meeting them where they are and gently showing them where they could go. I once watched this unfold in a tense negotiation over a community development project. Emotions ran high. People were furious over proposed changes to their neighborhood, and the room buzzed with resentment. One person didn't start by laying out facts or counter-arguments. Instead, he listened. He let people vent. He nodded at their frustration, asked short questions that made them elaborate. You could see the anger drain replaced by an odd relief that someone was actually paying attention. And when he finally spoke, he didn't argue. He acknowledged their fears, repeated some of their own words back to them, then carefully suggested compromises. The room, ready for war an hour before, settled into nods. It wasn't that he won the fight. He ended it before it started by reflecting their concerns back to them. That's what Stoic influence looks like. It doesn't seek to win debates by crushing opposition. It creates alignment by making people feel seen. Because the truth is, people are rarely moved by logic alone. They're moved when they feel understood. And if you rush in too different, too polished, too sure of yourself, you'll only raise their defenses. The Stoic knows this. He studies the other person's language, posture, energy. He matches it, not to imitate, but to show respect, to show that he is present enough to see them clearly. This isn't about manipulation, it's about strategy rooted in humility. You can't lead anyone you haven't taken the time to understand. You can't persuade anyone who feels threatened or dismissed. Mirroring is the quietest way to say, I'm not here to conquer you, I'm here to talk. And once that unspoken wall comes down, real influence begins. Most people fail at this because they're too eager to prove themselves. They talk over others. They prepare their rebuttal while the other person is still speaking. They never slow down long enough to see the fear or uncertainty behind the anger. The Stoic does the opposite. He holds his tongue. He watches. He adapts. When someone is loud and fast, he meets them there just long enough to build rapport, then deliberately slows things down. When someone is guarded and cautious, he lowers his own voice, relaxes his posture, makes space for them to feel safe. It's subtle, almost invisible. But it's powerful, because once someone relaxes, they're no longer fighting you, they're listening. And that's when you can guide the conversation, not through domination, but through careful, calm direction. Influence doesn't come from being right, it comes from being trusted. Stoic philosophy thrives here because it demands discipline over ego. It's easy to argue, it's harder to listen, it's easy to insist on being heard. It takes patience to make sure you've heard the other side first. But this discipline pays dividends. You don't need to shout to be heard if you've built the kind of trust that makes people lean in when you speak. So the next time you find yourself in disagreement or trying to lead someone to a better solution, resist the urge to win. Instead, watch, listen, reflect, then guide with intention. Let your calm shape the moment. Let your presence ease the tension. That's leadership without force. That's how you become the one people turn to when things get difficult, even if they don't know exactly why. If you've ever tried this approach or struggled with it, share your experience. Your insights could help someone else see the power in moving quietly. Because once you understand how to lead through reflection, you're ready for the next rule of unshakable power. 6. Walk away with clarity. Power isn't always in what you do or say. Sometimes it's in the choice to leave. A Stoic knows that strength doesn't lie in clinging to every battle, every relationship, every opportunity that crosses his path. It's in knowing exactly when to turn and walk away. This isn't about coldness or cruelty. It's about being clear about what you stand for, clear about what you'll accept, and clear about when something no longer deserves your time. I remember seeing this in a small business partnership between two men, one named Daniel. In the early days, Daniel gave everything to the venture. Long hours, deep trust, shared plans. But over time, his partner started cutting corners, ignoring agreements, chasing short-term gains at the expense of their values. They had countless meetings, endless arguments trying to fix it. But the truth was clear. The vision was no longer shared. One day, without fanfare, Daniel walked away. He didn't scream. He didn't threaten lawsuits. He handed over his share at a fair price and left. Many thought he was weak for giving up. But within a year, the business collapsed without him. He had seen the rot early, and he refused to tie himself to something that would drag him down. He used his clarity to protect his future. Most people can't do this. They stay in conversations that turn toxic, jobs that drain them, relationships that breed resentment. Not because they believe in them, but because they're afraid to leave. They tell themselves it's loyalty, but it's really fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of seeming like a failure. The Stoic sees through that. He knows that suffering needlessly isn't virtue, it's waste. He doesn't fight to change what's already lost its value. He preserves his energy, his peace, his direction. Walking away doesn't mean slamming the door. It means stepping out without anger because you've already decided what matters to you. It's exiting the meeting that's going nowhere. It's ending the argument when it becomes personal and fruitless. It's leaving the party where you don't belong, not out of pride, but out of principle. This ability changes everything. When people know you can leave, they stop assuming they own your time. They respect the cost of your presence. It makes you less predictable, not chaotic, but free. And that freedom is power, because it means no one holds you hostage with guilt or fear. Even in conflict, sometimes silence followed by leaving is your strongest move. Let them rant, let them posture. You don't need to match their chaos, you simply go. And in that quiet exit, you leave them with their own words ringing in their ears. That's the echo they'll remember. This is Stoic philosophy in action. It's knowing you don't have to win every fight or hold every position. You only hold what aligns with who you are. And when something stops serving that, you release it, not with drama, with clarity. If you're ready to stop playing their game and start mastering your own, these 6 rules are your foundation. Power isn't about noise, It's about knowing yourself so deeply no one can shake you. Don't just watch, act. Live these principles, sharpen your mind, and command the respect you deserve. If this stirred something in you, hit like, share it with someone who needs it. Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe so you never miss the next lesson. This isn't just philosophy. This is your edge. Let's build it together.